We'll start off with John Raulerson, uh, Bureau of Forest Protection. He will be providing some background on Florida Forest Services mitigation program.
Hi, thank you. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is John Raulerson, like I said, the Forest Protection Bureau Chief. I'm going to talk a little bit today about mitigation projects and some of the mitigation monies we were able to get here after Hurricane Michael and after the Bertha Swamp Fire in 2022. Pretty huge impacts on the Florida Forest Service, especially in our timber belt. What we like to say, it was an incredible event that after the Bertha Swamp Fire, we ended up with, there's never a good time to have a fire, but session was in. And session was in, and they were like, how can we help? What can we do? And we were able to secure a pretty hefty amount of money for a period of time to take and help us mitigate the wildfire problem that we knew was coming. With that massive devastation across the board in such a huge area, we had to do something that had to look really deep on how we fight fire and how we take and do these mitigation projects off of the normal, what we normally do on a day-to-day basis. So they gave us this money. There was a ton of things that we sat around and thought about. What do we do? How do we do it? What equipment do we need? And the good thing about it was we were able to just use that money to buy the things that we've never had before. One of the biggest things, like I said, was be able to buy that equipment. For us, that was huge when we're talking about Florida Forest Service doing the work. But also one of the other bigger parts of that is being able to use that money to contract out the particular stuff that we needed done, because we knew we just could not take the parts and pieces and the workforce that we had and do as much work as we needed to do. So we got into it and started looking at contracts. We actually changed the way we do our contracting when we were talking about doing this kind of mowing and this type of stuff. And we went out and had some folks work in that Region 1 area, North Florida area, take a real close look at, what the problem is, how do we rank them, how do we do the process. And we were able to put those bids out. Maybe some of the folks in here bid on them. Maybe some of you got the contracts. That's great. And based on a tier system. So whether it was a huge fuel load or a moderate fuel load or a small fuel load, what that contract would look like and how you would do the work. And then we were able to take in, 4 or 5 folks to be able to be on that contractor's list, and we were able to spread that out and get that work done. So like I said, we're talking about work in hurricane, but we had a few more hurricanes since that point in time. So now let's look at across the state and what do we do? So we had that template of how we were going to work. We already had mitigation teams in place across our regions. We have 4 of them across the state. How do we get them new equipment to do this job? How do we take and do more to get the wildland urban interface and all that stuff that's laying around, whether it be in the Perry district, which was hard hit here recently, whether it be South Florida, Fort Myers, that was hit just the year before. And how do we do this, and how do we build safe space for us to fight fire and to prevent those fires from coming in and rolling in on these communities? So we looked at that. We started really working those processes, doing bidding across the state. And so at this point in time, this is about 2 or 3 weeks old. I know on your thing it says Sean Duggar. He's our mitigation specialist there at the state office. So I'm filling him in for him because he had to go take a vacation in Virginia fighting fire for us, but that's okay. That's what we did. So like I said, we started out here with Region 1, which is the North Florida area across from Tallahassee all the way back to the state line. They were the first ones to get started. So you can see these 250 projects, a little over 4,053 acres mowed, and then your amounts of fire lines, 494 miles, and 11,000 structures protected. So that was fairly quick. We were able to get those bids out and get that money moving and get those contractors on the ground and really start working those spaces. You can see we worked through, we had the next hurricane, Region 4, which is our South Florida, really started working those folks as well. And you can see, you start seeing these structures protected, which is huge for us. Almost 8,700, 5,000, 2,000 miles of fire line that were open or reopened or plowed. And then these acres mowed. That's contractors on the ground, equipment on the ground, doing that work. Like I said, getting that threat away from those houses and that infrastructure, which is extremely important for us. When I talk a little bit about, what we were able to do internally for us, we were able to take in right off the bat, we bought two Raptor 500s. This piece of equipment is, it's pretty incredible. The picture doesn't do it well. Basically, to move that thing around, we've got to have a low boy in a trailer to move it. About 425 horsepower. And it's got a huge bulging head on the front of it. And we automatically bought one. That was a great job. Thought the commissioner, he said, well, let's get another one, which is pretty neat. It's like, hey, I'm on the email with that, but it's cool. We bought these things, they're job specific for what they do. We've got a full-time team of folks that run these. And out of that money, what we're able to do, instead of putting that emphasis on the district, when when we're talking about fuel costs and maintenance and stuff like that, we take that money and we make sure that these pieces of equipment are running, every possible chance they get. And with that piece of equipment, when it's out there working, you can take and make a pretty quick defensible space with a good operator. We have really, really good operators on these. We just couldn't pick any guy. We make sure we had our best operators on these. The cabs, back there, got excited. The cabs on them. Inside, it's a pressurized cab. Anybody's ever run these pieces of equipment back in the old days, you were pretty beat up after a couple hours. This thing is designed around the operator to the point that it's even got a little cooler inside, keep your lunch from cold. It's got cameras all over it. It's really a neat piece of equipment. They won't let me run it, but one day they're going to use it. Like I said, it's German made. It's very specific to what it does. We were able to put those right into the impact area, and you're still working every day on a constant basis. So even several years now after Hurricane Michael, we still have a lot of work to do there, and they're doing a lot of stuff. With that, like I said, we have 4 mitigation teams around the state. When we talk about that, we had equipment. These mitigation teams have been around since after 98. So these mitigation teams were out there. They had old equipment, maybe not the right equipment. We started out with some John Deere 333s with these types of heads on them. Anybody from equipment, it wasn't the proper machine. So we had actually one of our mitigation FASs there in Region 2. He said, hey, what about this? And we're like, okay, well, let's take a look at it. Ended up talking to the folks, and we're able to get these Landtrack 6160s. Job specific, built for what they're built for. It's an incredible machine. What we love about it is like I said, once again, it's operators. You start with operator station, and then they work out. Once again, operators can get in here and do the work. You can go down to Napa and buy any parts you need for that thing. So it's really very easy. It's got a Cummins, full small Cummins engine in it, I believe. And other than buying a T for it and stuff like that, and your occasional piece of metal that you find in the woods, they've really worked great for us. We have these deployed all the way across the state in all our regions. So what we're trying to do now is to make sure that we've got the right equipment, the right operators, so we can take and move through and do that work on the most efficient way we know how. Next thing we did is we said, okay, that was really cool. Let's get some more stuff. Once again, we went back and we tried to find the best equipment. We went to the CAT 299. Once again, another great piece of equipment that we really have found that works well. And what we did with those old things, we took them and said, okay, we're not getting rid of them. We moved them out to the state forest where we can use that kind of stuff as well. So, and all that being said, what we want you to know is we're using that money. We're making sure those contractors are working. If we've had 1 or 2 issues with contractors, overall, it's been great. I think it's really been a positive program for our entire division. And we were able to take, and if we have an issue or that guy can't bid on it, we're able to move quickly to the next one and make that process quicker. So we're getting that money to the public, and getting it done. One of the other things that we were able to do with that money is really bolster our PFIP program, Prescribed Fire Enhancement Program. We were really able to take and put money back into that. And for a while there, we weren't doing, outside agencies. We were trying to concentrate on ourselves because we didn't have the money to do that. Now, with this type of money, we're able to concentrate on the park service, where, FWC, water management, we're able to take and do that and really get a lot more burning done. And John, I'm sure you'll probably talk about some of this maybe. Yeah, you're going to talk about some of this, aren't you? It's good stuff. But that Prescribed Fire Enhancement Program has really, really worked out great for us. We're able to use that money effectively and get fire on the ground, not only with ourselves, but our sister agencies, and contract that out as well. So we're using that money all the way across the state to the tune right now I'm looking at the burn numbers for the year. we're just short of 1.4 million RX burn acres in the state of Florida, and that's got a lot to do with people in this room. 1.4 million acres is, I like to talk smack when I go to other states. We're leading the country, as we like to do, when it comes to prescribed burning. And we just had our, it's hard to believe to say this in my almost 28-year career, Rick. I don't know. We burnt 89,000 acres in February just on state forest in the state of Florida. And that's huge. That's a big deal. We were able to adjust and really put a lot of fire on the ground effectively, using aircraft, using just every technique we can. We've got some new programs coming, some new equipment coming that not tied to this, but we look at our drone program. We're starting a new drone program that's really going to take in a force multiplier, as I like to say. And, it's something where you can take that drone, geofence it up, put it out there. They have the Ignis system on them. We're able to take and go in there and prescribe fire on state lands where we can't take a helicopter, where we don't have that, 15,000 acres to work with, where it might be a 400-acre tract on Twin Rivers, or it might be a small piece on Jennings, or another small piece. So we're able to do that instead of using 4 or 5 rangers, with a fire pot and backing through a block. We're able to put that up. It helps our guys stay safe. It helps us take and effectively use the equipment we have and really get a lot more prescribed burning on the ground. Now, the bonus to that is they got really cool cameras on them. We have IR capability, so we're going to use those in the firefighting world as well. Right now, we've just taken 7 of them. We're excited about that. I didn't get 7 good out of my mouth, and Rick's like, order 15 more. So, we're going to make sure that all our districts across the state have these. Our centers will have them so that we're able to use these effectively and really get the prescribed fire out there on the ground. So like I said, 1.4 million acres prescribed fire this year already, 89,000 acres on state forest, 164,000 give or take across the state forest so far this year. So it's a big deal, and like I said, we're leading the country. I'm sure there's going to be some DEP talk here in a little bit. I see my friend from DEP right there in front, but that's good. That's our friend from DEP in front, and we talk on a lot. There are some changes, and I'm sure they'll talk about it. But right now, Florida sits in good shape. We sit on the peninsula, so be happy about that. Really helps us with smoke in the state of Florida. It continues to help us do what we do and make the state safe through prescribed fire. And that's something that you don't see around the rest of the country. So we're proud of that. We're proud of what's going on. We're proud of what you're doing in the program. And don't feel like, that being at this training is important, because, I missed a training and John took my certification from me. So don't feel like it's, a public thing. It's like, man, that's pretty hard. See, he has he don't care. He'll just take it right from me. But as far as yes, ma'am, absolutely. Go ahead.
Did y'all take any of those big boys over to Madison County?
No, we hadn't yet, but it's yes, ma'am, you are right. Because I'm your neighbor. All right, I live in Suwannee County. I worked actually started in the Suwannee district, and I'm sure Butch wants them real soon. No, that's the next. Yeah, everybody needs some. Rick, I guess we're gonna buy a bunch more. Gaston County. See, everybody's a winner. Just in case you were wondering, that amount of money doesn't go far when you're buying these bad boys, by the way. They're not cheap. But, like I said, we do realize that, Perry, that district is itself, that entire was hit hard, extremely hard. And we know that we've got a lot of work to do out there as well. So we're moving forward. It's a process, but we're moving quickly. And I know Rick is dedicated. Our mitigation teams are dedicated. I know your FASs and your local managers, they don't not let us know constantly. And Gaston County too, just in case you're wondering. Any other questions?
How many acres are y'all averaging a day mulching and storm?
I'd like to give you a specific number, but I won't do that because the true nature of it is how bad is it?
Yeah.
Like I said, that thing, the smaller ones, obviously your production rate's going to be smaller, but we're not going to use those in places where it's just not efficient. So we're going to bring that big machine in. Now, with big machine comes big problem. If you're going to go in there, that head on that thing's 8, 9 foot wide, 10 foot wide. So you got to make sure where you're working and where it's at. However, I have seen some work done with that thing so far that, your traditional mulching head like that, you're throwing stuff all over the place. The way that piece of machinery is built, you can run in there, almost put it up next to a house, fold it down and back out, and you don't have that peripheral shrapnel going everywhere. But they can pretty much put in a pretty good size, 50 to 100 wide line around, around acres, depending on how bad it is, relatively quickly. I mean, as fast as it'll go forward is as fast as it'll mow through it.
And one thing that they're doing, I want to clarify, is that they're mowing, buffer strips.
Right.
Really, they're not just going out and taking a 100-acre block and mowing 100 acres, they're mowing strips
Right.
around, infrastructure, around communities and things like that, and give us an opportunity to be able to help defend that in case we get a fire.
Yeah, that defensible space part of it is what I'm talking about. Yes, sir.
John, I know, last couple of years, Florida Forestry Association has, worked towards trying to get some money for assisting, prescribed owners with wildfires got out.
Mhm.
Is anything happened this year?
That's not my side of the world, Doug. I'm the equipment in nuts and bolts guy. And I think that's kind of maybe a higher up question, but we'll talk about it a little bit and see where it is. But anything else? Like I said, I wasn't going to keep you long. I know I'm right after lunch, so I got to keep moving and keep it lively. So, any other questions? Well, I'll be here the rest of the afternoon. If you need anything, please come talk to me. I appreciate your time and thank you all for what you're doing. You good?
Thank you, Phil.